The mattress dipped suddenly. I woke with someone's fingers tangled tightly around mine. Not gentle. Desperate. Ethan. My name left his mouth like a wound. The city rain tapped against the apartment window while Noah pressed closer in his sleep, forehead against my shoulder, breathing uneven like he'd been running from something even in dreams. During the day, he barely looked at me. Cold eyes, sharp tongue, constant silence. But every night, he crawled into my bed like he belonged there. I tried pulling my hand away once. His grip tightened instantly. "Don't," he whispered, half asleep, voice cracked and soft in a way I'd never heard before. "Don't disappear like everyone else." My chest went tight, because the worst part wasn't him needing me. It was how fast I was starting to need him back. Welcome to BL Without Labels, where the story isn't defined by words. Stay with the story. Support us. Chapter 1: Thin Walls. The first thing I noticed about the apartment was the smell. Dust. Instant noodles. Rain leaking through old wood. The second thing I noticed was him. Noah stood near the kitchen counter with his arms crossed, black hoodie hanging loose over broad shoulders, silver rings catching the flickering ceiling light. He didn't say hi, didn't ask my name. He just looked me up and down once, like he was already regretting this. "This place seriously only has one bedroom?" I asked, dropping my duffel bag near the couch. "You can leave if you want." His voice was flat, cold enough to freeze the room. I almost laughed. I would have left if I could afford literally anywhere else. Instead, I forced a smile. "Great start, roommate." No reaction. The rain outside got louder. Somewhere upstairs, pipes screamed like dying animals. Perfect. I rubbed the back of my neck awkwardly. "So, I'm Ethan." "I know." That made me pause. "You know? The landlord sent your info, right?" "Of course." Noah turned away before I could answer and walked toward the tiny kitchen. The apartment was so small I could hear every movement. The cabinet opening, the quiet clink of a glass, the slow rhythm of his breathing. The silence between us felt heavy. Not normal silence. The kind that says don't get too close. I watched him from the corner of my eye while pretending to unpack. He was annoyingly handsome in a way that felt unfair. Dark hair falling over tired eyes. Sharp jawline. Veins visible beneath pale skin when he rolled his sleeves up. The type of face people stare at without realizing. The type that probably knew exactly what it could do to someone. "You always stare this much?" he asked suddenly. I nearly dropped my charger. "I wasn't staring." "You were." His tone stayed calm, but there was something sharp underneath it, like he was testing me. I scoffed and looked away first. That probably counted as losing. Hours later, the apartment lights were off except for the weak glow from the street outside. Noah disappeared into the bedroom without another word, leaving me alone on the couch with a thin blanket and my dying phone battery. The rain never stopped. Neither did my thoughts. Couldn't sleep. The couch springs dug into my spine, and every time I closed my eyes, I kept hearing Noah moving around in the other room. Footsteps, floorboards creaking, water running briefly, then silence again. At some point, exhaustion finally dragged me under. I don't know how long I slept before I felt it. Warm fingers brushing against mine. I frowned, half awake. Then a sudden weight dipped the couch beside me. My eyes opened slowly. Noah was there, close enough for me to feel his breath against my neck. Still asleep. His face looked different like this. Softer. Younger somehow. The tension he carried all day was gone. Before I could move, his hand found mine under the blanket and held on tightly. Like instinct. Like fear. My heartbeat stumbled. "Noah!" I whispered carefully. No response. He shifted closer instead, forehead nearly touching my shoulder now. And quietly, so quietly I almost thought I imagined it, he whispered, "Please don't leave again." Chapter 2. Morning pretends nothing happened. I didn't sleep after that. How was I supposed to? Noah stayed beside me on the couch the entire night, fingers locked around mine like letting go would kill him. Every now and then his grip tightened suddenly, his breathing uneven for a few seconds before settling again, like he was trapped somewhere bad. And somehow, without understanding why, I stayed still for him. The apartment slowly filled with pale blue morning light. Rainwater crawled down the windows. Somewhere outside, a train screeched across wet tracks. Noah moved first, a small shift of his body. Then his eyes opened. For 1 second, he looked completely vulnerable, confused, warm, human. Then he realized where he was, where his hand was. His entire expression shut down instantly. He let go of me so fast it almost hurt. "What the hell are you doing in my space?" he snapped. I stared at him. Actually stared. "You literally climbed onto my couch." "No, I didn't. You're holding my hand." His gaze flicked downward, right at our tangled fingers. There was a brief pause. Then he pulled away hard enough to nearly fall off the couch. "That didn't happen." I blinked slowly. "You sleepwalk too?" "No." "You sleep hold hands then?" His jaw tightened. "Cute. Dangerously cute." I said forget it. He stood up, running a hand through messy dark hair before disappearing toward the kitchen like the conversation physically offended him. Meanwhile, my pulse still hadn't recovered. I looked down at the empty space beside me. Still warm. Weird. The sound of cabinet doors slamming echoed through the apartment. A few minutes later, Noah shoved a mug of coffee onto the table in front of me without looking at my face. "Black coffee. No sugar." "You look dead," he muttered. "You insult everyone after cuddling them, or am I special?" The mug nearly slipped from his hand. Finally, a reaction. His ears turned faintly red before his expression darkened again. "Keep talking like that and you can sleep outside tonight." I grinned into the coffee. Interesting. Very interesting. The university campus was only 15 minutes away, but Noah walked ahead of me the entire time like he was trying to pretend we weren't together. Cold wind pushed through the crowded sidewalks. Students laughed around us, umbrellas bumping into each other, music leaking from headphones. Noah ignored all of it. Girls stared at him constantly. Some guys too. He never noticed. Or maybe he was used to it. "You always this friendly?" I asked. "Yes. That explains why you have 0 friends." He suddenly stopped walking. I nearly walked straight into his back. Noah turned slightly, eyes unreadable. "I don't need people." The way he said it felt wrong. Not arrogant. More like rehearsed. Like he'd repeated it enough times to almost believe it. Before I could answer, a voice called out from across the campus courtyard. "Noah!" A tall blonde guy jogged toward us, smiling easily. Unlike Noah, this guy looked warm. Open. Rich, probably. His eyes landed on me immediately. "Oh," he said. "You're the new roommate." Something about his tone made my shoulders tense. Not rude. Just assessing. Noah looked irritated already. "What do you want, Lucas?" Lucas ignored him and held a hand out toward me. "I'm Lucas. We're in the same architecture program." I shook his hand carefully. His smile stayed polite, but his eyes kept flicking between me and Noah, calculating. Then Lucas laughed lightly. Honestly, I didn't think Noah would let anyone move in with him. Neither did I. Noah shoved his hands into his hoodie pockets. "We're late." He walked away immediately. I watched him disappear into the crowd before looking back at Lucas. "So," I asked slowly, "what's his problem?" Lucas' smile faded just a little. "You really don't know?" A cold breeze passed between us. Then Lucas said quietly, "Just don't get too attached to him." Chapter 3, Things We Don't Say. By the 3rd day, Noah and I had developed a routine. Ignore each other. He stayed locked inside the bedroom whenever I was home. I stayed on the couch pretending I didn't notice every sound he made through the thin apartment walls. The problem was, I noticed everything. The way he opened soda cans quietly at night because he thought I was asleep. The way he paced during phone calls but never actually spoke. The way he stopped wearing headphones around me, like part of him was always listening for something. For me, maybe, which was ridiculous. Because after the couch incident, Noah acted like I personally offended him by existing. And honestly, that annoyed me more than it should have. Thursday night, I came home exhausted after class and found Noah sitting at the tiny kitchen table, sketching something under the dim light. His sleeves were rolled up. Mistake. I immediately noticed the veins in his hands again. Also a small scar near his wrist. Also the way his hair fell over one eye when he concentrated. Annoying. "You're staring again," he said without looking up. "I'm trying to figure out if your personality was always this bad or if it's medical." His pencil stopped moving. For a second, silence stretched between us. Then Noah leaned back slowly in his chair. "You talk a lot for someone sleeping on a broken couch." "There it is," I muttered. "The daily attitude problem." "You're still here, aren't you?" I dropped my bag harder than necessary. "You know, most people say thank you when someone pays half the rent." His eyes sharpened instantly. "Wrong topic." I could feel it immediately. "I didn't ask you to." "No, your landlord did because apparently Mr. Mysterious can't afford this place alone." The second the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Noah stood up so suddenly the chair scraped violently against the floor. The apartment felt even smaller now. "You don't know anything about me," he said quietly. That tone was worse than yelling. Cold enough to cut skin. Something defensive rose in my chest too fast. "Whose fault is that? You act like talking to people will kill you." "Maybe it does." The words slipped out before he could stop them. We both froze. Noah looked away first. His jaw tightened hard enough to hurt. Then, like he hated himself for saying too much, he grabbed his hoodie and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Out. It's midnight." "I didn't ask for your permission." The door slammed behind him. The apartment went silent. Immediately, guilt hit me, sharp and ugly. I groaned and dropped onto the couch, dragging both hands down my face. Why did every conversation between us turn into a fight? No reason. No logic. It felt less like arguing and more like desperately trying not to say something worse. Something honest. Hours passed. Rain started again around 2 a.m., tapping softly against the windows. Noah still wasn't back. I told myself I didn't care. At 2:37, I checked my phone. 2:51, I checked again. By 3:10, I was standing near the window pretending I wasn't worried. Then finally, the apartment door opened quietly. Noah stepped inside soaked from the rain, dark hair dripping into his eyes, hoodie clinging to his body. He froze when he saw me awake. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I noticed blood on his knuckles. My stomach tightened instantly. "What happened?" "Nothing. That's literally blood. It's not mine." That somehow felt worse. Noah started walking past me. Without thinking, I grabbed his wrist. The second I touched him, he stopped breathing. Not dramatically. Not visibly. I just felt it. A sudden stillness. His skin was freezing cold from the rain. "You disappeared for 3 hours," I said quietly. Then came back bleeding. "I'm allowed to ask." Noah looked down at my hand around his wrist. Then slowly at me. His eyes looked exhausted. Not physically. Emotionally. Like he'd been carrying something heavy alone for too long. "You shouldn't wait up for me," he murmured. I swallowed. Why not? For one dangerous second, something vulnerable almost appeared on his face again. Then he gently pulled his wrist from my grip and walked toward the bedroom. But before closing the door, he stopped. And without turning around, he said softly, "You fight with me like you're scared of liking me." Chapter 4, Too Close. I didn't sleep after that. Again. The apartment stayed dark except for the weak light under Noah's bedroom door. I kept replaying his words in my head while staring at the ceiling like it personally betrayed me. "You fight with me like you're scared of liking me." The worst part? He wasn't completely wrong, which was irritating, because Noah was impossible to live with. Moody, secretive, annoyingly pretty for someone with the emotional communication skills of a locked door. And somehow my brain still noticed things it shouldn't, like how his voice got quieter when he was tired, or how he rubbed his thumb over his knuckles when he was anxious, or how he never actually looked comfortable unless he thought nobody was watching. At around 4 in the morning, the bedroom door opened. I turned my head slightly. Noah walked into the kitchen barefoot, wearing gray sweatpants and a black shirt hanging loose over one shoulder. His wet hair looked darker now, curling slightly near his neck. I immediately looked away. Too late. I can feel you staring, he muttered. You dress like a problem. Silence. Then, a quiet laugh. Small, brief, but real. I looked back too quickly. Noah was standing near the sink pouring water into a glass, head lowered slightly, hiding the smile almost immediately. That tiny sound hit me harder than it should have, because it proved something terrifying. There was an actual person underneath all that ice. You hit someone? I asked finally. His shoulders stiffened again, and just like that, the warmth vanished. No, you came home bleeding. They deserved it. I sat up slowly on the couch. That doesn't exactly help. Noah drank from the glass without answering. The silence stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. Then quietly, without looking at me, he asked, "Why were you waiting?" My chest tightened unexpectedly. I should have lied. Instead, I answered honestly, "I don't know." That made him glance at me. Really glance at me. The apartment suddenly felt too small again. Rain tapped softly against the windows while the refrigerator hummed in the background. Everything else disappeared beneath the weight of his attention. Noah set the glass down carefully. "You're weird," he said. "You climbed into my bed on day one. You're still talking about that? You literally held my hand like your life depended on it." His expression changed slightly. Not anger. Something sadder. "Forget it happened. I can't." The words slipped out too fast. Noah went still. So did I. Neither of us moved. The tension between us felt alive now. Breathing. Dangerous. Then suddenly, a loud knock hit the apartment door. We both flinched. Noah's entire expression darkened instantly. Not annoyed. Alarmed. He crossed the apartment fast and opened the door just enough to block whoever stood outside. I couldn't see the person clearly from the couch, but I heard the voice. "Lucas, you weren't answering your phone," Lucas said quietly. "I'm busy." A pause. Then Lucas lowered his voice further, almost careful. "He's back." Every bit of warmth disappeared from Noah's face. My stomach tightened immediately. "Don't start," Noah muttered. "You think ignoring it fixes anything?" Noah. That name sounded different coming from Lucas. Closer than I liked. I hated that I noticed. Lucas finally glanced past him and spotted me watching from the couch. "You came home bleeding. They deserved it." I sat up slowly on the couch. "That doesn't exactly help." Noah drank from the glass without answering. The silence stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. Then quietly, without looking at me, he asked, "Why were you waiting?" My chest tightened unexpectedly. I should have lied. Instead, I answered honestly, "I don't know." That made him glance at me. Really glance at me. The apartment suddenly felt too small again. Rain tapped softly against the windows while the refrigerator hummed in the background. Everything else disappeared beneath the weight of his attention. Noah set the glass down carefully. "You're weird," he said. "You climbed into my bed on day one. You're still talking about that? You literally held my hand like your life depended on it." His expression changed slightly. Not anger. Something sadder. "Forget it happened. I can't." The words slipped out too fast. Noah went still. So did I. Neither of us moved. The tension between us felt alive now. Breathing. Dangerous. Then suddenly, a loud knock hit the apartment door. We both flinched. Noah's entire expression darkened instantly. Not annoyed. Alarmed. He crossed the apartment fast and opened the door just enough to block whoever stood outside. I couldn't see the person clearly from the couch, but I heard the voice. "Lucas, you weren't answering your phone," Lucas said quietly. "I'm busy." A pause. Then Lucas lowered his voice further, almost careful. "He's back." Every bit of warmth disappeared from Noah's face. My stomach tightened immediately. "Don't start," Noah muttered. "You think ignoring it fixes anything?" Noah. That name sounded different coming from Lucas. Closer than I liked. I hated that I noticed. Lucas finally glanced past him and spotted me watching from the couch. His eyes narrowed slightly. Then he asked, "He stayed over?" Noah answered too quickly. "Yes." Something sharp twisted unexpectedly in my chest. Before I could even understand why, Noah shut the door hard enough to rattle the walls. The apartment went silent again. I stared at him. What was that? Nothing. Lucas looked ready to fight me. "He's dramatic." "No," I said slowly. He looked jealous. Noah froze, just for a second. But I saw it. And somehow, that scared him more than anything else. Chapter 5: The Things Your Body Learns First. After Lucas left, the apartment felt strange. Too quiet. Noah disappeared into the bedroom again, without another explanation, leaving me alone with questions I wasn't supposed to ask. Who was he? Why did Lucas sound worried? And why did Noah look terrified for half a second before hiding it again? I tried distracting myself with assignments spread across the tiny kitchen table, but concentration was impossible when I could hear Noah moving around behind the bedroom wall. Drawer opening. Footsteps. Silence. Then footsteps again. Restless. Around midnight, the bedroom door finally opened. "You're still awake?" Noah asked. I looked up from my laptop. "You pace like a ghost. Hard to sleep through." He leaned against the doorway quietly. God, that was unfair too. Black hoodie. Messy dark hair. Tired eyes softened by low light. Noah looked dangerous during the day. At night, he looked lonely. "I make coffee when I can't sleep," he muttered after a moment. "Was that your version of an invitation?" "No. But you want me to come anyway?" A slow blink. "That depends. Are you annoying at 1 a.m. too?" "Probably worse." For the first time since moving in, Noah didn't immediately shut down the conversation. Instead, he turned toward the kitchen and waited. Something warm spread unexpectedly through my chest. The kitchen barely fit both of us. Every movement brushed shoulders, elbows, breath. Noah stood beside me at the counter making coffee with sleepy silence while I watched him far more than necessary. "You hover," he said quietly. "You avoid eye contact. You talk too much. You're blushing." That made his entire body pause. I nearly smiled. Slowly, Noah looked at me over his shoulder. "I'm not blushing. You definitely are. I hate you." "No, you don't." The words came out softer than either of us expected. Neither of us spoke after that. The coffee machine hummed between us while tension pressed heavy into the tiny apartment air. Noah reached past me for a spoon at the exact moment I moved. Our bodies collided lightly. His hand landed against my waist to steady me. Everything stopped. I felt his fingers through the thin fabric of my shirt instantly. Warm. Firm. Way too familiar. Noah inhaled sharply. So did I. We stayed like that for one dangerous second too long. Close enough that I could see how tired his eyes really were. Close enough to notice the tiny scar near his lip. Close enough that, if either of us leaned forward, the kettle clicked loudly. We both jerked apart immediately. Noah turned away so fast he almost hit the counter. "Careful." I stared at the back of his neck. Red. Actually red. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. "You're unbelievable." "Shut up." "You're embarrassed." I said shut up, but his voice lacked any real anger now. That somehow made things worse. Or better. I couldn't tell anymore. A few minutes later, we ended up sitting on opposite sides of the couch, mugs warming our hands while rain hit the windows again. The apartment lights stayed off. Only the city glow illuminated Noah's face softly in the dark. "You and Lucas close?" I asked carefully. Noah's expression dimmed slightly. "We grew up together." That sharp feeling returned to my chest again. Jealousy, which was ridiculous. I barely knew Noah. So why did the idea of someone else understanding him better make me feel irritated? "He cares about you," I said. Noah looked down at his coffee quietly. Sometimes people care too much. Something about the way he said it felt heavy, personal. Before I could ask anything else, Noah suddenly leaned sideways against the couch cushions, exhaustion finally catching him. His shoulder brushed mine. He didn't move away. Neither did I. The silence between us changed again. Softer now. Dangerously soft. Then quietly, almost like he didn't mean to say it aloud. Noah murmured, "You make this place feel less empty." And somehow, that scared me more than the fighting ever did. Chapter 6. The way he looks at me. After that night, something shifted between us. Not enough to name, but enough to notice. Noah stopped hiding in the bedroom all the time. Sometimes he sat beside me while I studied, sketchbook balanced on his knee, quiet music playing softly from his phone. Sometimes we argued over stupid things just to fill the silence. Sometimes neither of us spoke at all. And somehow those moments felt the most intimate. By the second week, my body had started recognizing his presence automatically. The sound of his footsteps, the smell of his shampoo after late showers, the warmth of him sitting too close on the couch pretending not to notice our knees touching. It was becoming a problem, a serious one, because Noah was beautiful in the kind of way that sneaks up on you slowly. Not perfect, real, tired eyes, sharp mouth, hands that always looked tense until he relaxed around me without realizing. And worst of all, he had started looking at me differently too. I noticed it first during class break. I was sitting outside the architecture building eating vending machine chips when Noah suddenly appeared beside the bench. "You skipped breakfast again," he said. "Good morning to you too." He tossed something into my lap. A sandwich, still warm. I blinked up at him. "Did you just buy me food?" "You looked hungry." That's suspiciously caring behavior. Noah rolled his eyes and sat beside me. "Don't make it weird." Too late. It was already weird. Because he remembered things about me now. Coffee order. Favorite snacks. The fact I hated thunderstorms but pretended not to. Little things. Dangerous things. "You're staring again," he muttered quietly. "You keep doing thoughtful things. It's confusing." A faint blush crept across his face instantly. There it was again. That tiny crack in his armor. "You talk too much," he said, looking away. I grinned. "You get flustered too easily." "I don't get flustered." At that exact moment, a girl from our class approached the bench nervously. Noah?" His expression immediately cooled. The difference was so sharp I almost felt bad for her. She held out her phone awkwardly. "Could I maybe get your number?" Noah barely looked at it. "No." Direct. Simple. Brutal. The girl looked embarrassed immediately. "Oh, sorry." Before she could leave, Noah suddenly stood up. Then, without warning, he grabbed my wrist lightly. "Come on," he muttered. I blinked. "What?" "We're late. We're literally 30 minutes early." His grip tightened slightly, and that's when I realized. He wasn't pulling me away because he wanted to leave. He was using me as an excuse. The realization hit embarrassingly hard. The girl noticed too. Her eyes widened slightly before she stepped back. "Oh." Noah immediately let go of my wrist after we turned the corner behind another building. But the warmth of his hand stayed there anyway. "You know," I said slowly, "people usually pretend to date someone before rejecting others." Noah stopped walking. His ears turned red instantly. "You're impossible." I stepped closer without thinking. "Was that jealousy?" "No." "You answered too fast." "No, I didn't." "You hated her talking to me too." That made him look at me sharply. Silence. Then quieter. "She was looking at you." The world seemed to pause for a second. Students passed around us laughing loudly. But suddenly all I could focus on was Noah standing too close beneath gray skies, looking at me like he regretted saying that aloud. "Why does that bother you?" I asked carefully. Noah's throat moved slightly when he swallowed. His eyes dropped briefly to my mouth, then back to my eyes. The tension hit so hard it almost felt physical. For one terrifying second, I thought he might kiss me. Instead, Noah stepped back abruptly like he'd just remembered something dangerous. His expression closed instantly. "We should go." And just like that, the moment was gone. But later that night, while pretending to sleep on the couch, I felt Noah quietly sit beside me in the dark. A long silence passed. Then very carefully, like he was scared I'd pull away, his fingers slipped between mine again. Chapter 7. What happens after almost? I should have moved my hand away. That would have been the smart thing. Instead, I tightened my fingers around Noah's. Beside me, his breathing faltered quietly. The apartment was dark except for the weak orange light leaking through the curtains from the street outside. I kept my eyes closed, pretending to sleep, while Noah sat at the edge of the couch holding my hand like he needed proof I was still there. His thumb brushed slowly against my knuckles. Small, absent-minded, but intimate enough to make my chest ache. "You're awake," he whispered. Not a question. I opened my eyes slowly. Noah looked exhausted again. Dark shadows under his eyes. Hair messy from running his hands through it too much. But right now, without the cold distance he wore during the day, he looked painfully soft. Neither of us let go. "You only do this when you think I'm asleep," I murmured. His gaze dropped to our hands immediately. "I know." "Why?" Silence. Noah's jaw tightened slightly like he was fighting himself. Then finally, "Because when you look at me," he said quietly, "it feels real." Something inside me cracked a little at that. The city sounds outside faded completely. No cars, no rain, no neighbors, just him. Just Noah sitting impossibly close beside me. "You scare me sometimes," I admitted softly. That made him blink. "Me? You make me feel things too fast." His expression changed instantly. Like hope was the one thing he didn't know how to hold safely. Before I could think better of it, I sat up slowly on the couch until we were facing each other properly. Close. Too close. Noah's eyes flicked down toward my mouth again. My heartbeat became unbearable. "If I kiss you," I whispered, "are you going to pretend it never happened tomorrow?" A weak breath escaped him. "Probably." I laughed quietly under my breath. "Honest at least." Then Noah leaned closer first. Not dramatic, not sudden, careful, like he was terrified I'd disappear if he moved too fast. The moment his forehead touched mine, I felt him shaking slightly. That destroyed me more than anything else. "You can stop me," he whispered. I answered by kissing him. Soft at first, warm, uncertain. Noah froze for half a second before his hand suddenly reached for my waist, pulling me closer with quiet desperation like he'd been starving for this longer than I realized. The kiss deepened slowly, messy breathing, warm lips, his fingers trembling slightly against my shirt. Every emotion we'd been avoiding for weeks poured into that single moment. Loneliness, jealousy, fear, wanting. When we finally pulled apart, Noah stayed close enough that our noses still brushed. His eyes looked wrecked, beautifully wrecked. "You have no idea what you're doing to me," he whispered. I smiled breathlessly. "Pretty sure you started this." For the first time since meeting him, Noah smiled without hiding it. Small, real. It made my chest hurt instantly. Then quietly, almost painfully honest, he murmured, "I think I started loving you the first night I reached for your hand." Chapter 8. Everyone notices. By the next week, Noah had completely lost the ability to act normal around me. Not that he was ever normal to begin with, but now, it was obvious, painfully obvious. He followed me everywhere around the apartment without realizing it. If I stood up to get water, suddenly he needed water too. If I moved to the couch, 5 minutes later he'd quietly appear beside me with some excuse about better lighting. And the hand-holding problem had gotten worse. Much worse. I was halfway through watching a movie one night when Noah walked past the couch and casually hooked his fingers around mine like it was automatic. No hesitation. No embarrassment. Just instinct. I looked down at our hands slowly. Then at him. "Noah." He blinked innocently. "What?" "You literally grabbed me mid-sentence." "Oh." Still didn't let go. I could feel my face heating already. "You're clingy," I muttered. His expression stayed completely serious. "Only with you." That did not help my heartbeat. At all. The worst part was how naturally he said things like that now. Quiet little confessions dropped into normal conversations like they wouldn't completely destroy me afterward. At university, it became impossible to ignore. Noah waited outside my classes, carried drinks for me without asking, stared at anyone who stood too close to me for too long. And somehow, despite being cold to literally everyone else, He looked at me like I was the only thing in the room worth paying attention to. Lucas noticed first. Actually, Lucas noticed everything. You created a monster, he told me flatly while watching Noah walk toward us across campus carrying 2 coffees. I didn't do anything. You made eye contact with him once and now he's emotionally attached. I tried not to smile. Failed immediately. Noah reached us a second later and handed me my coffee before I could ask. Thanks, I said. He shrugged casually, but the tips of his ears turned pink the moment our fingers brushed. Lucas looked deeply exhausted. This is unbearable, he muttered. Noah ignored him completely and sat beside me on the bench. Not near me, beside me, our shoulders pressed together instantly. Then, without even looking away from his phone, Noah reached for my sleeve lightly between his fingers like he just needed contact somehow. My face went hot so fast it actually hurt. Lucas stared at us both. Oh my God, he whispered dramatically. You're both disgusting. Noah finally glanced up. Why are you still here? I was here first. Leave. You're proving my point. I buried my face in my coffee cup, trying to hide my smile, while Noah continued absent-mindedly playing with the edge of my sleeve. How are you not embarrassed? I asked quietly. Noah looked genuinely confused. About what? This. I gestured weakly between us. You act like we're attached by a string. He thought about that for a second, then leaned slightly closer until his knee pressed against mine. We basically are. My soul left my body. Lucas made the loudest suffering noise imaginable. Meanwhile, Noah looked completely calm despite the fact he was actively ruining my ability to function normally. Then softly, so only I could hear, he asked, Why's your face so red? Chapter 9 Stay. The problem with Noah becoming clingy was that he never did things halfway. Once he liked something, he held on to it carefully, constantly, which meant I'd somehow reached a point where my cold, emotionally unavailable roommate now refused to sleep unless some part of him was touching me. At first, it was just our hands, then his shoulder against mine. Then one night, I woke up to find Noah fully curled against my side on the couch, face hidden near my neck while his arms stayed loosely wrapped around my waist. Like this was the safest place he knew. I stared at the ceiling in complete silence. My heart was suffering. Noah, I whispered carefully. A sleepy sound left him. Not words, just a tired hum, which somehow made it worse. You're literally using me as a pillow. That's not a response. Warm. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I looked down at him properly. Without the usual guarded expression, Noah looked younger when he slept. Peaceful in a way that felt rare. His eyebrows weren't tense. His breathing stayed slow and steady against me, like he finally rested properly beside me. That realization hit harder than expected. Slowly, Noah opened one eye. The second he realized I was awake, embarrassment flashed across his face for maybe half a second, then disappeared completely. He tightened his arms slightly instead. You moved, he murmured sleepily. You attached yourself to me like a koala. You didn't complain. My face heated instantly. Annoying. Very annoying. Noah noticed immediately too. A tiny smile appeared against my shoulder. You're blushing again. You're impossible. You like me. I stared down at him. You say that like it's shocking. For a second, Noah just looked at me quietly. Then softer, like he still couldn't fully believe it. You really do. Something warm twisted painfully in my chest. Before I could answer, his phone buzzed loudly somewhere across the apartment. Noah's entire body stiffened instantly. The warmth disappeared so fast it scared me. He sat up immediately and grabbed the phone from the coffee table. I watched his expression darken while reading the message. What happened? I asked. Nothing. Big lie. Noah. He rubbed tiredly at his face before standing up. I have to go somewhere. At 6 in the morning? It won't take long. The nervous feeling in my stomach returned immediately. The same feeling from the night he came home bleeding. I stood too. I'm coming with you. No. Why not? His jaw tightened slightly. Then quietly, Because if something happens to you because of me, he stopped there. But I understood anyway. The room fell silent. I stepped closer slowly until I could take his hand gently in mine. You don't get to decide things alone anymore, I said softly. Noah looked wrecked after hearing that, like nobody had ever chosen him willingly before. His fingers tightened around mine immediately. Then he leaned down until his forehead rested lightly against mine. I'm trying really hard not to need you too much, he whispered. My chest ached. Bad news, I murmured. You already do. Noah closed his eyes briefly, and very quietly, almost scared of the answer, he asked, if I asked you to stay, would you? Chapter 10 Home. The apartment felt different after that conversation. Softer, like somewhere along the way, this tiny place with leaking windows and broken furniture had quietly turned into something neither of us wanted to lose. Home. Noah came back late that evening after dealing with whatever problem he refused to explain fully. He looked exhausted when he stepped through the door, dark circles under his eyes, hoodie damp from light rain. But the second he saw me sitting on the couch waiting for him, his entire expression eased. That alone did dangerous things to my heart. You waited again, he murmured. You keep disappearing dramatically. It's becoming a habit. A tired laugh escaped him softly. God, I love that sound now. Noah kicked off his shoes and walked straight toward me without hesitation. No walls, no pretending, just him. He stopped between my knees where I sat on the couch, looking down at me quietly. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then his fingers brushed gently against my jaw. Careful, like he still couldn't believe he was allowed to touch me this way. You look tired, I said softly. So do you. That's because you emotionally stress me out every day. A faint smile appeared on his lips. You're still here though. The words carried more weight than they should have. Still here. Not leaving. Not disappearing. I reached for his hand slowly and intertwined our fingers automatically now. Natural. Easy. Noah looked down at our hands for a long moment before squeezing gently. I used to hate coming back here, he admitted quietly. The apartment felt empty all the time. My chest tightened. And now, his eyes lifted back to mine. Now you're here. Silence settled around us, warm and quiet instead of heavy. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows again. The city lights painted gold across Noah's face while he stood impossibly close between my legs, looking at me like I was something precious, something worth staying for. Without thinking too much about it, I tugged lightly on his hand. Noah leaned down immediately, like instinct, like he always would. The kiss this time was different from the first one. Not desperate, not uncertain, slow, warm, the kind that says I'm still here. His hand slid gently into my hair while mine rested against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath my palm. Noah kissed me like someone learning how to breathe properly after years underwater. And when we finally pulled apart, he stayed close enough that our foreheads touched lightly. No teasing, no hiding, just honesty. I don't think I sleepwalk anymore, he whispered softly. I smiled a little. No, his thumb brushed against my hand. I think I was just looking for you. The rain outside grew heavier. But inside that tiny apartment, with Noah holding my hand like he never planned to let go again, everything felt warm. Thank you watching Visit BL Without Labels channel for more stories.